Hello. Well, our recent video on the withdrawal of the winter fuel payment caused quite a stir, with more than 127,000 views and around 2,000 comments. Not surprisingly, it touched a nerve. So today we're going to catch up with the latest news about it and react to some of the more critical comments that the video received. Now, that should be fun. Welcome to Grey Matters. Hello and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and which looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Now, judging by the response to our last edition, it would seem that the winter fuel payment really matters. So we're just going to pick up on it a bit. Footage has surfaced of an interview with Keir Starmer that was probably made when Labour was in opposition. I'm guessing that he's criticising the government, or the then government. But now that he's the nation's Prime Minister, his words have a hollow ring. In fact, I think it's probably the most ironic interview he's ever given. Take a look at this.
Winter before last, in the height of the energy prices going up, and spoke to an 84-year-old woman, worked all her life, obviously now a pensioner. And she told me that she doesn't get out of bed till midday because she didn't want to turn the heating on.
Yeah, it's awful.
And then when she did get out of bed, she had this sort of thermal jacket that she just wore all day long, so she didn't have to put the heating up very high. That's an awful position to put a pensioner in.
Yeah.
And there are just too many of those stories.
Then, of course, 2 weeks into government, his Chancellor made this statement to Parliament.
Today, I am making the difficult decision that those not in receipt of pension credit or certain other means-tested benefits will no longer receive the winter fuel payment from this year onwards.
The hypocrisy is astonishing. I have no words. All we can do is let those two clips speak for themselves, I think. In other news, a petition has been launched calling on the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, to reverse the decision, and more than 300,000 people have already signed it. Now, the petition was launched by AGUK, and it states what we all know, that the change will impact millions of older people who rely on the extra financial support to help cover the energy costs during the winter. The petition says, cutting the winter fuel payment this winter with virtually no notice and no compensatory measures to protect the poor and vulnerable pensioners is the wrong policy decision. Now, they believe that there are as many as 2 million pensioners who find paying their energy bills a real stretch, and they will be seriously hit by this cut, such as those on low incomes who just miss out on pension credit, those with high energy needs because of disability or illness, the 800,000 who don't receive the pension credit for which they're entitled. Now, the withdrawal of the winter fuel payment will affect around 10 million pensioners, and those 2 million will really struggle to pay their winter fuel bills. However, I think all pensioners need to sign this petition. Yep, there are many who don't actually need the winter fuel payment. Many in the comments, as we'll see later, referred to wealthy pensioners. But to be honest, we don't need to consider them yet. We just need the petition signed to show the strength of feeling and to try and get a reversal. The whys and wherefores of proper means testing can come later. Now, there's a link to the petition in the description, and you really do need to sign it. If all viewers of our original video signed it, that would be more than 127,000 extra signatures. This is your chance to let your feelings known, so please don't waste it. However, you know, I have to wonder if this isn't a typical Yes Minister ploy. Do you remember that brilliant TV series? Well, in one episode, Jim Hacker's department wanted to close a couple of hospital wards to save money. They knew they'd never get away with it because the public outcry would be so huge. So instead they declared they intended to close the whole hospital. Indeed, there was a massive outcry with petitions and TV debates, and eventually they U-turned and said, OK, well, we've listened to the people, we respect their concerns, but we do have to make some savings somewhere. How about we just close a couple of wards? The public breathed a sigh of relief, and the government got what it wanted in the first place. And, you know, I can't help thinking there's more to this winter fuel payment measure than meets the eye. I wouldn't be surprised if Reeves comes back with a compromise solution where she appears to back down and compromises with something she probably wanted in the first place. We'll all breathe a collective sigh of relief as she shoves an equally distasteful bill up our collective jacksies. Watch this space. Now, in other news, we have heard that AGUK they've submitted a parliamentary briefing paper, and it outlined and commented on the proposal. And AGUK's position is clear. They said, "We strongly oppose the means testing of the winter fuel payment because it means millions of pensioners who badly need the money to stay warm this winter will not receive it and will be in serious trouble as a result. Yet well-off older people will scarcely notice the difference. It's a social injustice. With next winter now just over the horizon, the government should halt their proposal to change the winter fuel payment and think again, given the clear evidence of how it will hurt the older people who need it the most." Now, whether or not the government will be swayed by the briefing paper or the petition remains to be seen, but don't let that put you off signing it. Right, so in a moment we're going to take a little look at some of the comments left on the channel after our first video on the winter fuel payment, the majority of which are as indignant as we are here on Grey Matters. So I'm not going to look at those. Instead, I thought we'd concentrate on the critical comments we received, and I'm going to react to 3 or 4 of the most common complaints. I'm going to enjoy this. See you in a minute. Hello and welcome back. Now, many of the critical comments we received couldn't understand what all the fuss was about, as the winter fuel payment was going to be means tested. Many mistakenly believed that that would mean everyone will be means tested. Peter FL1818 said, "The headline is misinformation, a distortion of the truth. Winter fuel payment is not being ended. The honest headline would have been, the winter fuel payment is being means tested." Mike Adamson 6696 said, "Means testing is on the agenda." And Pauline Coburn 181 posted, "This is nonsense. They're not stopping the winter fuel payment, they're means testing it." Well, it's true enough that the winter fuel payment isn't being stopped for everyone, just for the majority. But to say that it will be means tested is simply not true. There's no suggestion that there will be any new means testing, so the 2 million who need it the most but just fall short of the threshold won't get it. Rachel Reeves was quite specific in her address to Parliament, as we've seen already a moment ago. Those not already on pension credits or other means tested benefits will simply not receive it. There's a fairyland belief that all pensioners will be freshly means tested. They won't be. Quite rightly, the millionaires and other very wealthy pensioners will lose it too. But just because you're not on benefits doesn't make you wealthy. Which brings us to the next most common criticism, that if you're not on benefits, you're wealthy and you don't need the winter fuel payment. A pretty typical comment said, "Means testing means that only the wealthy will lose it and pensioners not on benefits don't need it." And there was this one from Ruth 58969. "Never let the truth get in the way of a good news story. This only affects pensioners who do not get means tested benefits." Well, she's right there. But then she goes on to say, if they don't get the benefits, they don't need the fuel allowance. I can't believe how ill-informed some people are about this. It's clear that many people, and by many we're talking about a couple of million, fall short of the threshold by just a few pounds, and that's borne out by many of the comments, and they desperately need help. And that's hardly not needing the winter fuel payment just because you're not on benefits, does it? And then there were countless allegations that we were talking right-wing BS or spouting Tory rhetoric. Now, in our general election video, I promised that the channel would not be party political with a big P, but would not ignore political issues that affected the older generation. This channel has always been and always will be non-political, and by that I mean we will not nail our flag to any particular party political mast. If politics do make it to air, then it will be in the context of issues that could or do affect the older generation. So these are fairly typical comments. Simon ZB6FP says, well, Grey Matters appears to be another Conservative Party channel for rich pensioners who spend their winter fuel allowance on Christmas presents for their grandchildren. Ed Dender WF1VF commented, what is this channel? Tory appreciations? Farage fan page? I've never known such hypocrisy by the right-wing blue rinse mob. And this one from Alan and Dre Alan Bowman 367. I'm sure you could have got an easier handle, Alan. Anyway, he says, what a load of old codswallop. This is a Tory twisting the facts to suit his own agenda. Typical Tory, never can be trusted. Well, the views expressed on here are not right-wing or Tory, they're pensioners' views. Don't forget that it was Labour under Tony Blair who introduced the winter fuel payments and stopped thousands of winter deaths as a result. The Tories, on the other hand, were considering withdrawing it, and Labour fought against that. Now, this channel would have been just as critical of the Tories or any other government that cancelled the winter fuel payment for so many people who badly need it. The thing that sickens so many people, I reckon, is that having introduced the payment in the first place and subsequently fought for it, the new Labour government has almost instantly U-turned and hit pensioners hard in their pockets. It needs a fairer means testing that stops those who don't need it whilst capturing every single person who does. And talking of winter deaths, I feel I need to respond to this comment from Stuart Wallworks 6505. He says, some alarmist stuff here. No one will die or starve this winter. Well, Stuart, the Office for National Statistics have stated that during the winter of 21 to 22, 45 people a day died from cold homes. That's 13,400 more deaths compared to the average non-winter months. And that's with the benefit of the winter fuel payment. And with the end of the energy price cap in October, adding at least 10% onto heating bills, and the cessation of the winter fuel payment, I can quite confidently say, Stuart, that you're wrong. I dread to think how many more deaths we'll see this winter. And finally, one of my favourites was from Jonathan Maybury 5698. Now, he thought Grey Matters was a decent video stream to watch. Then he said, it turns out I'm wrong. All I heard was some grey-haired old fart talking BS about politics. I'm afraid I can't do much about the farts, Jonathan. At my age, they tend to come with the territory. But as for having grey hair, how very dare you? I'll have you know, this is Arctic Blonde. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to leave your comments, and until the next time on Grey Matters, it's bye for now.